If you ask any mechanic to name the most reliable American engine ever built, they will not say the Chevy small block. They will not say the Ford Coyote. They will point to a boring cast-iron V6 originally designed in 1962. This is the story of the Buick 3800 V6. It is an engine that has absolutely no fans, no cult following, and no flashy marketing. But it also never breaks. It is the anti-hero of the automotive world. While other engines were chasing high revs and exotic materials, the 3800 was quietly powering over 25 million vehicles and racking up 400,000-mile odometers without breaking a sweat. But the craziest part of the 3800 story is not its legendary reliability. It is the fact that General Motors actually threw this engine in the trash, sold the rights to a rival company, and then had to beg to buy it back. Today we are diving into the bizarre history of the Buick 3800 V6, how it accidentally created one of the most terrifying muscle cars of the 1980s, and why GM's decision to finally kill it in 2008 was a massive mistake. In 1962, Buick's engineers didn't set out to build a legend. They just needed something cheap and fast to fill a gap. Chief engineer Harry Gerhardt took the company's lightweight 215 cubic inch aluminum V8, lopped off 2 cylinders, and called it a day. The result? A 90-degree V6 that started life as a cost-cutter's Frankenstein, borrowing the V8's 3.75-inch bore and 3.4-inch stroke, but ditching the fancy aluminum for cast iron. The whole process took just 90 days. The new engine, weighing in at 318 pounds, was a technical shortcut that came with a catch. It shook like a paint mixer at idle. Early owners joked that the idle was rougher than a cob. It was a half measure, a chop job, and everyone knew it. But in the world of car engines, sometimes the ugliest solutions refuse to die. By the mid-1960s, GM's faith in its scrappy V6 had sunk so low it was practically radioactive. The corporate brass saw the engine as an embarrassment, too rough for polite company, too crude for the Buick badge. So in a move that was the business equivalent of pawning your high school yearbook, GM sold the entire V6 tooling line to Kaiser Jeep for $1.2 million. That is right. One of America's most legendary engines was offloaded for the price of a few thousand Jeeps worth of transfer cases. Kaiser Jeep did not flinch at the V6's infamous vibration. For off-roaders, a little shake was just part of the charm. The so-called dauntless V6 found a new home in CJ models, where nobody cared if the idle rattled your fillings loose. Meanwhile, washed its hands of the whole affair, never imagining it would soon have to eat crow and buy the engine back. March 1974. The OPEC oil crisis has American car makers gasping for breath, and deep inside GM's glass towers, the mood is pure panic. Suddenly, that scrappy V6, once pawned off for pocket change, looks like a lifeline. With fuel economy now a matter of survival, GM's procurement team is forced into a humiliating negotiation. They cut a deal with AMC, Jeep's new parent company, to buy back the entire V6 tooling and rights for $2.5 million, more than double what they sold it for. Internal memos circulate with phrases like energy crisis response and urgent acquisition. For GM's brass, it's a bitter pill. The engine they had trashed as an embarrassment now becomes their only shot at meeting new efficiency demands. The buyback is not just a business transaction, it is a public admission that GM's best hope is the engine it tried to bury. Suddenly, the V6 is back in the family, ready for a second act. Buick's engineering team didn't just patch up the old V6, they tore it down and rebuilt it into something that could finally earn respect. The first real breakthrough was the balance shaft, slipped into the block in 1977. This single, gear-driven shaft spun opposite the crank, canceling out the engine's signature shakes. Suddenly, the 90-degree V6 stopped rattling teeth and started running nearly as smooth as a straight 6. Noise, vibration, and harshness dropped by a full 70%. Next came electronic fuel injection, rolled out in the early 1980s. Electronic fuel injection meant more precise fuel metering, quicker starts, and a solid 10% bump in fuel economy. The old distributor got the boot, replaced by a distributorless ignition module that fired each coil with digital accuracy. No more fiddling with points or worn caps. By 1988, Buick had enough upgrades under its belt to rebrand the engine entirely. The badge now read 3800, a nod to its true 3.8-liter displacement and a quiet flex that this was no longer the rough-and-ready cast-off from decades past. The stage was set for the engine's unlikely leap into performance legend. In 1987, Buick's Skunk Works engineers took the humble 3.8-liter V6, an engine born from cost-cutting and corporate hand-me-downs, and bolted on a Garrett turbo, a fat intercooler, and a custom tune. The result was the GNX, a blacked-out missile that made 276 horsepower and a thunderous 360 pound-feet of torque. Car magazines clocked it at 0 to 60 in just 4.6 seconds. That was faster than a Ferrari 328, quicker than a Corvette, and it left every V8 Camaro in the dust. Suddenly, the engine everyone called boring dropped the mic and sent shockwaves through the muscle car world. The GNX proved that the 3800 could be more than just reliable, it could be downright legendary. From minivans to police cruisers, the 3800 quietly powered nearly every corner of GM's empire, 25 million cars and counting. Mechanics still swap stories of these engines crossing 300,000 miles with nothing more than oil changes and a few gaskets, usually the infamous plastic intake on Series 2 models. The L67 supercharged version turned plain sedans into unsuspecting sleepers, good for 260 horsepower and plenty of grins. Yet in 2008, GM pulled the plug, replacing this cast-iron workhorse with the flashy, failure-prone 3.6-liter V6. Ask any shop veteran, the 3800 was not pretty, but it outlasted almost everything. So what is the real king? Buick's anti-hero 5.6 or the Ford 300 inline-6? GM tossed it, bought it back in embarrassment, and still couldn't kill its legend. The 3800 anti-hero outlasted the hype. But does it beat the Ford 300? Let's hear it below.